With just half a year left on the job, Alberta's socialist premier has convened 3 so-called envoys to solve the oil price crisis in Alberta. Alberta is indeed in crisis. While oil prices have rebounded in the rest of the world, they are still at rock bottom in Alberta. But never fear, Premier Notley has the solution. The same solution she has for everything: more highly paid bureaucrats. Her 3 new envoys are supposed to focus on creating more domestic upgrading and refining capacity for our oil, which is fine, except if we can't get a pipeline built to anywhere, how do we sell that product? An export pipeline is really the one thing that will truly address the price differential, that is, the discount Canadian oil sells at versus the world price for similarly produced oil. You see, we have one customer, the United States. And so we have to take the price they tell us to take. Now, earlier this week, Western Canadian Select was trading at anywhere between $12 and $18 a barrel, making the price differential anywhere over $40 a barrel right now. It's $40 per barrel that Canadian oil is selling cheaper than comparable American oil. According to a February Scotiabank analysis, pipeline constraints were conservatively estimated to cost the Canadian economy $15.6 billion this year alone. By focusing on upgrading and not export pipelines, Rachel Notley tipped her hand that she's really not all that interested in solving the oil price disaster, because she's not even treating a symptom of the disease, of the problems in Alberta. And something else she's done tips her hand too. It's the guy she hired to be one of her envoys that really shows us how serious, or rather not serious, Notley is about the crippling catastrophe that's happening in Alberta's oil patch. You see, she hired Brian Topp, or rather, she rehired Brian Topp as one of her so-called oil experts. Brian Topp's government bio says that he works as a public affairs consultant. He is a fellow with the Public Policy Forum and is a member of the Government of Canada's NAFTA Advisory Committee. Okay, great. So Brian Topp was one of the people that nearly tanked the entire Canadian economy with all the insane NAFTA finagling and social justice baloney with Donald Trump. You can see where this is headed already, can't you? Anyway, that tidy little government bio glosses over quite a few things from Brian Topp's very recent past. And you know what? We haven't talked about Brian Topp in a while around here. So today I want to give you a quick refresher course on exactly who this Toronto-based anti-oil, anti-fossil fuel NDP activist Brian Topp really is. In fact, when Notley first hired him in 2015 to be her chief of staff after he ran the NDP election war room at the Rebel, we dug up this little clip from him.
We'll cap and price carbon. We'll end coal as a source of electricity. We'll bring in a home and industrial retrofit program. We'll bring in a national public transit plan that starts to get cars out of our biggest cities.
In December 2011, as he was running to be the federal NDP leader, Topp said, calling Alberta's oil and gas ethical was basically the same as calling landmines ethical. He said, "We're a nice little democracy, so any product we produce is ethical." This being so, perhaps when he returns from disgracing our country in Durban, the environment minister can be given a new mandate. In addition to being a global salesman for carbon, Peter Kent can take on a new ethical sales job. Let's get into ethical landmines. September 29th, 2011, as quoted in The Straight, Topp acknowledged that the environmental consequences are shocking and said that Canada should produce a great deal less hydrocarbon energy. The same day, in the very same Straight article, Topp emphasized that provincial governments have authority over natural resources, so it will take a great deal of public education to convince Albertans of the wisdom of not proceeding with the Keystone XL pipeline. Before we talk about the mechanics of how we should stop this, and let's be clear, I think it should be stopped, I think we first need to win the battle of ideas in Alberta. Did you get that? Topp felt it was the government's job to teach us rubes about the evils of pipelines, to convince us to abandon our own jobs, our own wealth, our own prosperity, our own future. This country has been abandoning pipelines left and right. How's that been working out for us? We're selling our oil for a $40 discount, and nearly $16 billion have vaporized from our economy this year. But these weren't just the musings of Brian Topp to an NDP audience at a debate or off-the-cuff ramblings to a reporter here and there. He so firmly believes these ideas that he made them his official policy platform if he became elected NDP leader. You see, I've got his policy paper number 8. It's entitled Green Canada Prospers Canada, page 5, number 5, transitioning from future fuels and a determined phase-out of carbon-intense fuels to renewable energy for energy consumption. You see, Topp wants to phase out carbon-intense fuels. He's now in charge of getting your oil upgraded, Alberta. What could possibly go wrong? Let's go on, page 8. He opposes pipelines. He proposes, in the context of these policies, an end to continental pipeline projects designed to build an energy economy dependent on the export of raw bitumen. We must also work to reduce the direct environmental damage caused by oil sands development. The technology exists today for oil sands companies to dramatically reduce the amount of air and water pollution they release. And on page 9, by hiring Brian Topp, Notley assures us that we will never, ever see Trans Mountain built under her premiership. He says, I propose that Canada enact a legally binding ban on oil tankers off Canada's northwest Pacific coast. Brian Topp clearly sees oil itself as the problem to be solved and not the pricing problem that is tied directly to the lack of market access to pipelines abandoned by Rachel Notley, like the Northern Gateway Pipeline and the Keystone XL Pipeline. But that's the guy Notley trusts to save hundreds of thousands of Alberta jobs and rescue these families from economic destruction. I've got a quick word of advice for Rachel Notley for her last 6 months, and she can, take it or leave it because it's free. Please, please phone it in for the next 6 months and do absolutely nothing. Do not try to help us anymore because we don't need this kind of help. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. What you just saw there is the daily video that I do here at The Rebel, but did you know that I have my own weekly full-length show? It's aptly called The Gun Show, and we talk about issues facing Canadians in a way you would never see done in the mainstream media. But to get access to my show and the rest of our incredible premium content, treat yourself to a Rebel subscription today.